hidden hilltop in Rajasthan, India, remotely, quietly, they get on with the work. Yogis have been meditating, studying, changing the vibrations and the atmosphere, making changes to their very souls. They are guided by that higher power, the origin of wisdom, as the 20th century passes by. Who are the Brahma Kumaris, and what are they trying to accomplish? Who was Brahma Baba, and how was his life a model for us today? How can just a handful of people become instruments of change? Headed by elderly women with beautiful minds, the university experiments with new knowledge for a new civilization. They consider themselves instruments, making their lives into an art form. Using the power of gentleness, they teach new concepts. You are about to meet some of these gentle men and women, these quietly powerful instruments of global change. The knowledge, an outline of the ideas and spiritual information taught at the Brahma Kumaris World Spiritual University, together with the methods of rajayoga meditation.
This is Dadi Prakash Mani, the administrative head of the Brahma Kumaris World Spiritual University, here at her home at the headquarters of the Brahma Kumaris in Mount Abu, in front of the Tower of Peace, which is a very special place for the Brahma Kumaris.
मुख्य इसमें हमारी 4 सब्जेक्ट्स रहती है। एक कि मैं आत्मा क्या हूँ, कौन हूँ, कहाँ से आई हूँ, आत्मा का वास्तविकता क्या है। दूसरा, परमात्मा जिसको सब गॉड फादर कहते, वो क्या है, उससे हमारा क्या संबंध है, उससे हमको क्या प्राप्ति हो सकती, और वो हमें कैसे गति और सद्गति दाता, मुक्ति जीवन मुक्ति दाता है। ये सारी आत्मा परमात्मा की पूरी, परमात्मा स्वयं ब्रह्मा तन द्वारा हमें अपनी सत्यता की पूरी नॉलेज देता है, जिससे हमें ये मालूम होता कि तीसरा कि वास्तव में हम आत्मा कहाँ से आई, हमारा घर कौन सा है, जिसको कि परम धाम निर्वाण धाम कहता है, वो मालूम हुआ। और चौथी बात कि ये सृष्टि एक ड्रामा है, जिस ड्रामा जो रिपीट होता है, और उसी ड्रामा पर हम सभी एक्टर्स हैं, और इस ड्रामा का वास्तव में आदि क्या है, मध्य क्या है, अंत क्या है, ये सारी हमें नॉलेज मिली, जिस नॉलेज के आधार से हमें जो अपने को सोल कॉन्शियस करना चाहिए, जिसको राजयोग कहते, वो हम बहुत इजी अपने को शरीर से डिटैच करके आत्मस्वरूप और परमात्मा स्मृति में सहज रह सकते। जैसे कि ये नॉलेज के आधार से जानते कि सर्वशास्त्र शिरोमणि श्रीमद् गीता है, तो श्रीमद् भगवत गीता का रचता अथवा ये महावाक्य उच्चारने वाला परमात्मा शिव है, जो ब्रह्मा के मुख द्वारा हमें वो गीता का ज्ञान सुनाता है। इसीलिए ये ज्ञान के आधार पर हमें इसमें बहुत बहुत रुचि है, और यही नॉलेज हम सारी दुनिया के सामने सत्यता की रखने चाहते हैं।
बाबा ने हम बच्चों को कहा, बच्चे दे के सब संबंध धर्म को त्याग, मामेकम याद कर। ये संदेश सबके लिए है। जैसे ये संदेश सुनते अपनाते हैं तो ये अच्छा ब्रिज बन जाती।
The instruction that Shiv Baba has given us has been, children, renounce the awareness of the body, the consciousness of bodily relations, and even the awareness of bodily religions, and remember me, the incorporeal one, alone. And when we observe this instruction, and experience that remembrance of the One Supreme, then this also becomes a very powerful bridge.
अपने आप धर्म जाति रंग भाषा से दूर लेके जाती.
Because this automatically takes us beyond the barriers that divide us, the barriers of race, of caste, of culture, of religion.
That Baba distinguished between religion and spirituality. He said that religions were supposed to bring people together, create love, but the experience is the otherwise. They do create love, but amongst people of the same group, say we will say Christians and Christians are brothers, but Christians and Hindus are not brothers in that sense, so deep. Hindus and Hindus are brothers, but Hindus and Muslims are not brothers, and so on. So there is brotherhood within limits. So Baba said that the unifying common factor is spirituality, all our souls. Just as 2 plus 2 make 4 anywhere in the world, or oxygen and hydrogen make water anywhere in the world, similarly spiritual values should be applicable to all people. And now we find in 1993 that what he said was true. So it has been a male-dominated world, but he said in the earliest civilization which he visualized, it was the other way around, that it was not female-dominated, but it was a balanced world. Male and female were just equal. And so he thought that this tilt could be reversed by bringing the female to the fore. So the second important contribution was that the females who always got a secondary role, they were brought on the top. First step he took was, he created a committee of 8 females, surrendered himself, his entire property, entire time and energy to them, and he said, I will work under you. And that is how this institution was founded. And today also, all over all the teachers, all the seniors, all the administrators are females. We are there to help them, but we always, Baba used to say, you are the guards, they are the guides.
और ब्रह्मा बाबा ने जो शुरू में कहा था कि ये पवित्रता जो कोई भी महान आत्माएं, सन्यासी, विद्वान और नक गीता शास्त्रवादी कोई भी पवित्रता के लिए हिम्मत न रख सकते हैं और न दूसरों को दिला सकते हैं, लेकिन यही विश्व का पिता है जो पवित्रता द्वारा विश्व का परिवर्तन करेगा। तो पहले हमने देखा कि इसी पवित्रता के लिए ही अगेंस्ट हुई दुनिया, लेकिन अभी सभी समझते हैं कि पवित्रता के बिना विश्व का परिवर्तन हो नहीं सकता है। और पवित्रता का जो पान का बीरा है वो इस प्रजापिता ब्रह्मा ने ही विश्व में ये झंडा लहराया और हिम्मत रखी। और पहले क्रिटिसाइज करते थे, लेकिन आज ये महामंडलेश्वर वगैरह सब समझते हैं कि ब्रह्मा कुमारियों में पवित्रता की ताकत है और पवित्रता के बिना सचमुच हम परिवर्तन नहीं कर सके, जो कि अभी ये शिव बाबा के, ब्रह्मा बाबा के सहयोग से परिवर्तन कर रहे। अव्यक्त स्थिति का अर्थ ही है कि इस व्यक्त शरीर से न्यारी अपने को आत्मिक स्थिति में स्थित करना। तो जिस समय हमारी अव्यक्त स्थिति होती है उस समय हम ऐसे ही महसूस करते हैं कि जैसे मैं आत्मा इस व्यक्त शरीर से न्यारी होकर के इस व्यक्त शरीर से हर कार्य कराने वाली हूँ, और आत्मा जैसे साखी होके न्यारी होकर के इन कर्म इंद्रियों द्वारा हर कर्म कराती है। इसलिए कर्म करते हुए भी जैसे कर्म योगी स्टेज होने के कारण कर्म में फंसते नहीं हैं, लेकिन कर्म करते भी न्यारे और शिव बाबा के प्यारे होते हैं।
Very much connected with this was the whole concept of karma. Karma can be explained in a line. To every action there is equal and opposite reaction. When we see effects, then we're not always aware that there are causes, but in fact there are. And so the law of cause and effect, really. This means that I am responsible for whatever it is I find myself in, whatever situation I'm in, but not only on an external level, I'm also responsible for what's happening inside here and inside here. But not only am I responsible, if it were just that, it would perhaps feel a little bit of a burden, but I'm also the creator. And so I can now choose and create whatever it is I want for my own future.
Because I'm a chartered accountant and also lawyer by profession, so I can tell you that, and I appreciate Baba's, Brahma Baba's teachings on the economics, where purity of money and therefore pure money economics, which is very important and which is not known to the world at present. If I am the owner of my assets, and if I can utilize my assets in any manner as I may choose, then it is capitalism. If my assets are for the society, and then I have to utilize it also for the good of society, then it is socialism. Well, if the country or the government controls it fully, and I am not at all owner of any of my assets, then it is communism. So these are the things you see, and because of which there are these problems in this modern world. In this case of pure money economics, Baba says that, or we have been taught that everything belongs to God, and therefore we are all trustees. And in that spirit of trusteeship, when we do everything, then this principle works. Here, there are no fixed fees. People ask us, and those who are coming in the beginning, they ask us what are the fees, how it is being managed, how it is being run. And then these questions come up, you see, and then we explain them that it runs as if it is just like a divine family, in which the God, the Supreme, is the head of the institution or the head of the family, and we all work it in such a manner that we are the trustees. And therefore anybody can contribute whatever amount he would like to do it, depending on his ability. So there is no fixed fees or fixed taxation or fixed subscription also. And this manner there is absolutely what we call as voluntary contribution, and this helps us in running the institution. And anybody who joins here, whether he is rich or poor, he can contribute according to his own ability. We do not ask anybody to give anything like by way of, say for example, he is giving and then he will be given some name and fame and all those things. This name and fame problem also does not arise because of these things. So if one thinks on these lines, then he will realize the importance of this type of financial discipline that we have got here, where there will not be any distinction on account of the wealth of the person who is owning or on account of the contribution that one makes here.
Cooking in California is simple and enjoyable, and we often cook for groups of 100 people, and that's possible to do in a little tiny kitchen. But in Madhaban, they often cook for 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people. I remember one time I was asked to make cake for the evening program, only for 800. It was wonderful. They had this huge oven and they'd heated it up with logs. And then the yogi put his hand in and said, oh, that's the right temperature. He took the logs out and he put in so many of the cakes. It was incredible. In Madhaban, they begin the process of chopping the vegetables at 4 in the morning. They have huge pots to cook them in, and they have pots that are 6 feet high to cook the rice in. If you go in early in the morning, you'll see an incredible process. 70 women lined up in 2 rows, each one of them rolling chapatis. For a conference of 3,000 people, they will make 27,000 chapatis a day. They make hundreds and hundreds of loaves a day, and all of it in yoga. They all cook in yoga, and all that love just goes right into the food, into the yogis, and out into the atmosphere. Why we choose not to eat animals is because when animals are killed, they feel pain, they feel fear. The vibrations of that fear, that terror, And the hormones from that stay in the meat and stay in the flesh. And then when they enter the body, it really affects how you're feeling. As a Raj Yogi, another practice is to not give sorrow. And so being a vegetarian is a lot more animal friendly as well as more eco-friendly, friendly to the environment. The Raj Yoga diet is lacto-vegetarian, which means that in addition to eating grains and fruits and legumes, we also eat milk, cheese, yogurt. The variety of what you can do with these things is endless.
The founding father, Prajapita Brahma, a jeweler by trade who at the age of 60 received a calling. He became the instrument, the medium through whom the Supreme Soul gave his wisdom. In 1937, he founded what would later become the Brahma Kumaris World Spiritual University.
From early age, Baba was in search of God and a better kind of life, pure life. And as it went generally by the fashion of those days, that people thought that gurus are the proper leaders to God. And therefore, following that tenet, Baba started following gurus. Thus, Baba went on having more gurus and gurus. Up to the end, Baba had 12 gurus. And Baba had full faith in each guru. But being not satisfied with those gurus, Baba did not hesitate to leave the guidance of those gurus. And by that time Baba was 60 years of age and didn't find anything, any proper guidelines. Then Baba had a sincere heart, and still Baba desired to have something in life. And then he took 15 days leave from business to have some kind of deep thinking. And therefore he retired for 15 days to Benares in solitude. And during that period, he saw some visions. Baba saw in one vision that this old world, vitiated world, vicious world, is getting destroyed by natural calamities and by wars of several kinds, world wars and civil wars and killings and so many diseases and all that. Through so many methods, Baba saw a very dreadful scene of a vast scale destruction of this world. And Baba was simply surprised, and he was afraid how all this will happen. Then on the next occasion, Baba saw a totally contradictory scene, the scene of a new, perfect and pure world. And Baba was very much satisfied to see such a scene. Then on a third occasion, Baba saw the vision of Vishnu. Baba was a worshipper of Vishnu. And when he saw the vision of Vishnu, he was overjoyed. And in that vision, he saw Vishnu blessing him, having a hand of blessing on his head, and uttering the words, "I am Vishnu, so you are." This again puzzled Baba. How could he be that same entity whom he is worshipping? How can he be so elevated? So this put him in so many puzzles. On the one hand he saw destruction, on the other hand he saw the new world, on the third hand he saw blessings from Vishnu. Then he had to churn and churn on these lines, what this means, how this can be achieved, how can the new world come into existence in place of the old world. So this churning and churning and churning went on. And ultimately he as if felt that he is getting directions from God himself to do this job. The new world has to be established, and that is to be done through you. Baba was deeply in the problem.
करता हूँ इस कर्तापन के भान से दूर मैंने बाबा को देखा.
And because of this consciousness, we saw in Baba a state of detachment from the consciousness of I, or the thought that I have done anything.
अभिमान की अंश नहीं देखी कभी बाबा में.
And so there was no trace of any ego in Baba.
सच्चाई तो ऐसी देखी, अंश मात्र भी मिक्सचर नहीं देखा.
Total honesty, without any trace of any falsehood within it.
वफादारी और सच्चाई किसको कहा जाता है वो बाबा में देखा.
We saw faithfulness in Baba and saw what true honesty means.
जो भगवान के गुणों की हम महिमा गाते आ रहे थे वो गुण इस बाप में देखे.
We have been singing praise of the qualities of God, and we were able to see those qualities in this Father.
खिमिया, रहम, स्नेह इस बाप में देखा.
Forgiveness, mercy and love were visible in this Father.
सच्ची दिल, बड़ी दिल इस बाप की देखी.
We saw in this Father a true heart, a generous heart.
और तपस्या देखी तो ऐसी देखी, बात क्या बताऊं.
And we also saw him as the embodiment of tapasya, the embodiment of intense meditation.
तो वो इसमें भी देख रहे हैं, उसके याद में भी इसको देख रहे हैं.
And we saw God working through him, yet we also saw him in deep remembrance of God.
I think those who came in touch with him in one respect or the other, to one point or the other, they were definitely influenced. That has been perhaps a great success, I would say, of his system as well as of his life. And there were many reasons for this. One, for example, was the power in his thought. The belief system which he gave was very powerful, so that it intellectually convinced the people that this is the right way of thinking, this is what the truth is. And then he was able to bring the transformation through his love. He gave such a magic touch to the persons who came in close with him, that they found that there is really someone who has unselfish love. Without any personal motive, he loves. One could understand what love really is by coming in touch with him, I think. It touched the core of your mind. It changed your whole thinking. And you really believed that you were looking for this kind of a human being. You could never think that there could be such a living person on earth who really loves you, irrespective of your color of your skin, the beauty of your face or figure, your poverty or your richness, your abilities or lack of them. Now he was a person who loved the soul as a person, not because he had any motive behind it. So that was what made you realize that there could be such a person, and what you are going to learn from him. And when somebody loves you and gives you a good advice, then I think you are in a proper state of mind to act on that advice, because you think this is for your own benefit.
I learned a lot through him. The first and foremost was I started knowing myself, because otherwise, though I was good in my study, medical practice, everybody loved me, I loved them. But in fact, I never introspected myself and I never knew who I was. So not only there was self-realization, but there was real understanding of my personality through him. Because whenever he used to write a letter, he used to really describe few of our qualities in the beginning of the letter. And as I came in contact with him, I could see how much knowledge he had about me, much more than I knew myself. And I could feel from him the faith and trust that he had for me, which helped me a lot in carrying out my responsibility. The most important lesson that I have learned from Brahma Baba is to have balance in our life, so that we are looking after our body as well as we are not neglecting our mind or spirit. Also to have the balance of loving and detached, the balance of being economic as well as generous. So having that balanced life, we find that it becomes very easy to run smoothly in this life, which is mostly we find full of obstacles and obstructions.
Actually, whenever in the functions or in the branches they ask me to speak about the founder, I get emotional. And actually, I sometimes get tears also. I stop while speaking. But here I will try not to do that. So, I met the founder way back in 1955 for the first time. My parents got into this knowledge. Actually, my mother sent me to check where my father was going. He started first. I was a law student in those days, in the final years of my law study. So, being the eldest of the two children, sons, so she sent me. And I, for about a week or so, was trying to test the knowledge and its contents and the philosophy. You know, a lawyer can work both ways, either for the defendant or the plaintiff. So I tried to check, and I was not successful, nor were they, to convince each other. Then one day, after so many days, because my father was deeply involved, that is why they were tolerating me, otherwise they would have said, you stop coming. So they asked me to sit in meditation, try the meditation. So that day, I was just squatting for meditation. The sister who was supposed to teach me, she just had an introduction and went for a phone call, listening a phone call. When she was away, suddenly I got an experience, an extraordinary experience. A light engulfed me. I felt very happy for no reason. My eyes were open. I thought, what is this happening? I checked on my body, am I all right, felt it. So I got some feeling that there is some power here, and I should not just check it. I tried to think from their side if what they were saying was correct. After that, it was easy for me to understand. So after a few months of that, the whole family went to Mount Abu, and first time I had encounter with met the founder. I was very anxious to see him. So the founder was an old aged person, you know, about, must have been about 90 years of age or 85 years of age. And then he was a tall person with shining bright body, very attractive. And he would, what impressed me was, he will mix up with you and feel one with anyone, any person, irrespective of their age or what. So my father will feel that he is his Baba and I will feel he is my Baba, like that.
And then when I was ready and I came to Baba at that point when I was 18 and I said, Baba, I want this to be my life, Baba just smiled and said, Baba knew already. And then one night, it was here in Pandapavan, it was the month of June again and very warm and pleasant. And I'd been following the teachings just for a couple of months but Baba had given permission that I should come to Madhuban again. Around 10:30 at night, we were in a little courtyard outside Baba's room, and at that time the courtyard was open to the sky, and Baba was lying down on a bed that had been pulled out there, and it was about 10 of us gathered around Baba, and Baba's clothes were white, the bed sheet was white, Baba's pillow was white, Baba's hair was white, so it was an image of whiteness everywhere, great purity, light. And by Baba's pillow there's a bunch of jasmine flowers, very, very fragrant. And Baba picked up these flowers and beckoned me to come and take them. And as Baba was giving me these, Baba was making eye contact. And we call this drishti, the spiritual vision in meditation, in God's remembrance. And that drishti changed my life, because it was as if something pulled the soul from here and carried it into the dimension of light. And it was timeless. I really don't know how long Baba held me in that world of light, just in total stillness and that experience of purity and love. And after a while, it was as if Baba let go, and I was able to come back to the consciousness of this world. And so that's how I became a Brahma Kumari. And I think that if a film can show these two aspects of Baba, Baba's love and generosity, and secondly, Baba's wisdom and far-sightedness, I think then you'll have been able to show a little bit about who Baba really is.
It was in that first meeting with Brahma Baba and during the stay of 10 days which followed afterwards, that I could see Brahma Baba from such a closeness, because even physically I stayed next to Baba's room in the building where Baba was staying in Madhuban, and right from the morning, early morning hours till evening, till we went to sleep, it was nice to observe Brahma Baba, how he himself was a very keen meditator himself, and at the time of spiritual class, it was an experience to see the transformation in that personality when Shiv Baba descended in him to speak that spiritual knowledge to us. And then afterwards, how he himself appreciated that knowledge, and later on, how that knowledge was conveyed to all sisters and brothers for helping other human beings to get rid of the weaknesses, the negativity in their lives, and to become elevated souls.
I saw Brahma Baba for the first time, sometime in 1956, when he came to Bombay. He had some problem with his kidney, and he had some stone in his kidney, and he was in the hospital. When I went there, I saw him lying in that hospital bed, and the moment I saw him, I was reminded of the statue of Buddha in those Ajanta and Ellora caves in India, and also there is one temple in Singapore where also Buddha on the rocks, or sleeping Buddha statue is there. I had seen many people, and although they may be good, they could not impress me, because they were always worried about themselves also. When I saw him in the hospital, he was not worried about himself. He asked me so many questions. He asked me about my health and all those things. So I realized that here is a man, you see, who does not have any bondage with his body, and like that he impressed me a lot. Once I had taken him to a doctor, you see, concerned with, we wanted to check up his eyes, and that doctor, you see, started checking up his eyes, and then he found that at the age of 93, He could read, write and do everything. So he verified and tested all aspects of his eyes, and ultimately after 3.5 hours he told me that, Mr. Ramesh, believe me, this man, this Brahma Baba has 100% perfect eyes at the age of 93. Thus his perfection in life was also a part of his perfection of his eyes and perfection of his body. He could play, he could walk, he could talk, everything at the age of 93, like a young boy of 39.
Maybe it was 14th or 15th of January, and it was very cold night, evening time. After the dinner, it was Baba's practice to go out and have a little walk in a courtyard. And that day also Baba came out of the room after the dinner and wanted to walk in a courtyard. Normally Baba had someone to go with him for walk, and that day the everyday sister wasn't around, and I happened to be around. I just arrived the doorstep and Baba was coming out, and Baba looked at me and asked, "Child, you want to go for a walk?" How can I say no? "Oh yes, Baba, I want to." And Baba held my hand, and we set off to walk. But the moment I hold Baba's hand, I felt it wasn't Baba's hand. Normally when you touch somebody, you see, you feel the flesh and bones, but there wasn't that kind of feeling. But the feeling was like it was a cotton wool, or it was like a light. It was a few minutes because it was very cold and windy, so we went maybe for a few minutes, and Baba said, "Let's go inside." It was very cold, and so we went inside. In that day, I did not realize what was it, but I felt that. But next few days, then Baba became Avyakta, and a whole new avenue of effort, spiritual effort, came to our attention, that how to become an angel, not only in a spiritual sense, but through the physical, through the godly service, that Baba not only did service in a spiritual way, but also he melted his bones and flesh for God too.
The legacy of Brahma Baba. We will see how Brahma Baba's life, teachings and example inspired many people to develop themselves spiritually and bring about positive change in their own lives as well as their communities.
ब्रह्मा बाबा जो कि इस शरीर से अपना अव्यक्त रूप धारण किया है, जिसके एक वियन में गाया जाता कि इस आकाश तत्व से पार एक सूक्ष्म वतन, सब्टिल वर्ल्ड है, जिसको एंजल्स की दुनिया कहते। तो ब्रह्मा बाबा अब शिव बाबा के साथ एंजल वर्ल्ड में, सूक्ष्म वतन में रह कर के सारे विश्व को बहुत सूक्ष्म से लाइट और माइट दे रहा है। मैं हमेशा ये देखती हूँ कि मेरे सामने ब्रह्मा बाबा जैसे एक एंजल रूप में और लाइट में सामने रहता, और मुझे बहुत बहुत लाइट देता रहता, जिस लाइट से ऐसे लगता कि मैं बहुत कंप्लीट एक प्योर आत्मा बनती जाती।
It's easy to be normal, living a spiritual life. It's freer than any other type of freedom that I've ever experienced, because someone else has done it. There's a person in front of us all who has achieved a level of spirituality, a great level of personal achievement, a person who was not limited by any of his experiences or by any of his interactions with other people. And I find that a person like that is very present to me, very close to me. In fact, for a lot of my daily time, he's not far on the other side of my thoughts. I was walking down a street in Melbourne, this is a long time ago, 10 or 14 years ago, and I was just in my lunch hour in the office. I was just going out for a walk in the fresh air and everything, and I felt Brahma Baba say to me, stop, in the street, and I stopped in the street. And I'm not a visionary person at all, and I saw, how do you say, in the mind's eye, that I was posing as an artist, and I saw Brahma Baba dressed as a French sculptor with an apron, and he was sculpting what he classified as a masterpiece. And it was me being sculpted and moulded by him. And I'll never forget that experience. And he said, if you don't stay still in your mind long enough to communicate clearly with me, you will never become a masterpiece. So you must learn to be quiet in your mind. And this is one of the great benefits and boons that I've received.
Well, when I came to this knowledge, my relationship with Brahma Baba, or rather what I know of him, has only been on an intellectual level. But as time went on, as I deepened my knowledge, he became more and more real to me. I can relate one experience. When I was new in this knowledge, I could see many brothers and sisters in the centers are wearing badges, you know. And I was given the impression that I had to earn that badge. You know, I can't buy it. So I was thinking, what did I have to do to earn that badge? So one day I was meditating in a meditation room, and there was this a huge trance light of Brahma Baba there. And I was just having this conversation with God. I said that, what do I have to do to earn the badge? And at that moment I just looked at the picture of Brahma Baba, and he wasn't even wearing any badge, you know. And yet he had attained #1 position. So that struck me as the quality of Brahma Baba, being so desireless and so humble, and yet he attained the #1 position. So I had that realization from that day on, you know, not to really desire anything, but to just keep on making effort in this path, because this path is really a path of effort making, you know, no effort, no luck.
I think this is where they produce the core group, if one has to name them. And this core group has carried on his message to the rest of the world, because his message to the rest of the world was that the humanity will suffer tremendously in the coming years or coming, say, century, because of our vikars or our vices. And he wanted a band of people to influence by their own living standards and their living examples the rest of the world, and to attract more and more people. And this is a group of 300 people who just went out in the community, in the country, and the rest of the world. And today, at conservative estimate, is 250,000 people who have taken to the philosophy. And there's nothing like a religion here. It could be a young, old, it could be a Hindu, Muslim, Christian, or any religion. I'm a Jain, for example. And therefore I think it's cutting across all the barriers of various nations, communities, religions.
बाबा ने ये महावाक्य उच्चारण किए, तब हम देखते थे तो हमारा ये ईश्वरी परिवार बहुत छोटा सा था, और एक ही देश सिंध में ये स्थापन हुआ। लेकिन माउंट आबू में आने के बाद विश्व की सेवा शुरू हुई। पहले भारत की सेवा शुरू हुई। भारतवासियों ने अपने परमपिता परमात्मा से वर्षा लिया, और उसके बाद फिर फॉरेन में भी सेवा शुरू हुई, और प्रैक्टिकल में सब धर्म की आत्माओं को ये बाप दादा द्वारा संदेश मिल रहा है.
My name is Neville Hodgkinson. I've studied with the Brahma Kumaris for some 11 years now, and I work as a science journalist. My current post is science correspondent of the Sunday Times here in London. For many years I've specialised in medical science, and the things that taught me at a personal and professional level have tied in very closely with the spiritual study that I've done with the Brahma Kumaris Spiritual University over the last few years. The most extraordinary gift that Brahma Baba, and through him the Spiritual University, has provided to me and to so many others that I know is a reminder of the truth and the beauty of who I am. When I began this study 11, 12 years ago, I'd really forgotten that. And even though my life was moving along what seemed like a fairly even keel in terms of having a nice family, 2 lovely boys, wife, job, all these sort of things were okay on the surface. But inside, because of not knowing about that beauty, I felt as if something very deep was missing in my life. When I first went to India, which was 10 and a half years ago, I immediately fell in love with that country. It had a sort of craziness about it, which was in some ways a big trial for me, but it also had remnants of a greatness and a substance which I felt was not something that was a strength of our life here in the West. We're more controlled, we're more intellectual, we're more detached in many ways about the way we go about life. The scientific method with its cool objectivity has helped us to handle the material side of things better than is currently the case in India. But that coolness of the intellect without information from the feeling side, from the intuitive side, from the wisdom that comes from the heart, is actually a very partial kind of information. It works at the level of what is happening at the material, on the material side, but when it comes to human feelings, human skills in living and in interrelating, things that stem from an ability to feel good wishes towards one another, to feel love, to feel contentment, peace. We're really short on these things in the West because we've lost sight of a dimension of life, a spiritual dimension, through our attention, through our concern to be cool and objective and to look at things in a scientific and a repeatable and measurable way. If we don't take care of that spiritual essence to our nature, if we deny that, if we don't allow that to bubble through, we become dried out. We become just sort of fossilized intellects that are no use to anybody actually in the end, no matter how clear and true the facts that intellect deals with. And what I love about what Brahma Baba did, what the Spiritual University does, is that it says you must attend to the things of the heart, but you must also get things straight in your intellect.
मैंने देखा है 30-40 बरस के अंदर लोगों के अंदर मेडिटेशन के लिए बहुत प्यार पैदा हुआ है, भगवान की तरफ ध्यान खिंचता जा रहा है, जो भगवान से मायावी दुनिया के कारण दूर होते गए थे ना, वो अभी नजदीक आने लगे हैं बहुत.
Within the last 30-40 years, I've noticed that there's a change in the world. People are now more interested in meditation. People now once again have the desire to learn meditation, and love for God has emerged in their hearts once more. And so I believe this is also Brahma Baba's impact on the world.
अपने धर्म जाति के जो बंधन में लेबल पर पक्के थे वो अभी छूटते जा रहे हैं.
And what's happened recently is that it seems that people are more ready to be free from the labels of religion and race and culture.
अंतर अपने आप को जानने और परमात्मा को जानने के लिए अंदर से लगन में लगे हुए हैं।
And there's a deep desire to know the self and to know God.
ये बाबा की अंतर जो बच्चों के प्रति है वो भावना लोगों के पास पहुंची हुई है।
Baba had this deep desire to serve all souls, and it is as if those good wishes have been reaching everyone.
It used to be a bit of a struggle because I wouldn't call myself a natural meditator. I found it very difficult in the early days to, I found it easy to meditate, but I found it difficult to meditate at a quality level for a long time. And I found that there was a lot of softness going on. There was a lot of love coming into my soul from God. There was a lot of understanding. There was a lot of mercy being created in me for other people. And subsequently my nature softened a great deal, where I like being what we call Vishnu, is the balance of the male and female spirit. And I think that's essential for men before they reach their perfect stages, is to go through those levels, those changes, and to see the true feminine aspect of God. Because I think the feminine, we talk a lot about balance in this Rajayoga, balancing the life, balancing your nature, balancing your being. And I think that unless you balance that I'm saying to the men folk, is that to balance that aspect of themselves, they won't really know who you are until you go to that level, because it's a very important aspect. And it's an aspect that the Brahma Kumaris do actively encourage.
Chaque fois que je touchais au niveau intérieur, au niveau professionnel, il y avait comme une espèce de nivelage qui se faisait, il y avait comme un équilibre qui se créait. Et la façon dont je vois mon plan pour l'avenir en ce moment, c'est que je ne pourrais pas atteindre, journalistiquement parlant, une meilleure qualité sans atteindre intérieurement d'autres bénéfices spirituels, je crois. Et en ce moment, ce que je vois, c'est que tout doit marcher sur le même plan. C'est-à-dire que je ne dois pas séparer ma relation avec ma famille ou avec mes amis de ma relation avec les gens au travail, ni de ma profession, ni de ma spiritualité. Et d'être conscient que tous se reflètent l'un dans l'autre. Et c'est ça qui est important à traiter.
Basically, Rajayoga has given me the experience of internal honesty. That's frightening, because it sort of requires courage and being seen as who you really are. And one of the things that Rajayoga doesn't actually help you with is wallowing around in your own self-pity. So at the same time as unmasking, it's in a sense been like a cup in which to hold myself firmly. Just by allowing it to happen, I find now that my relationship with that practice of coming to class every day is really comfortable. It's like, having a cup of coffee in the morning. So I want to do it, I want to come to class. I don't particularly like dressing up in white and looking different, so I don't really do it. I mean, when I'm in Madhuban I do, and I like that, because of course if you did anything else you would look different the other way. It's really Rajayoga for me puts everything in context. It puts it, in a sense, it's the truth, and it makes sense of all the mess that I see around us in terms of relationships and in terms of the physical problems that we have and the international problems and politics and this and that. So I see that as the world inevitably becomes more unstable, and as we find our freedoms that in the West we're used to in a big way are diminished, that as a natural consequence we are going to have to get our freedom somewhere else, and it's going to have to be inside ourselves.
I had been in this spiritual knowledge since almost 11 years, and beautiful transformation has been happening in my life. You know that in Mexico, I come from Mexico. Mexico is a country with, let's say, 94% of the population is Catholic, with heavy old traditions. And but anyhow, there is a portion of population which is looking for something new, for something different. I think I was one of them. And then I become involved with this knowledge. Was funny the way that I start doing this, but in the minute that you realize really the deep and the simplicity of the knowledge, you begin to change. It's something that becomes automatic. And I hope to be many years in the knowledge.
Outreach to the world community. These are some of the ways the students and teachers of the Brahma Kumaris World Spiritual University developed to share these teachings and valuable insights.
I think that this film should project, first of all, that people of any background, any religious organization, any political orientation, any race, this teaching is available to all. Secondly, the teaching has already benefited the lives of a large community of people. I think, thirdly, we should, in the film, show how the institution has grown over the years. We have seen it where a few years ago one would not expect that this kind of thing will go to countries like the USSR or China. But today, this institution has established centers in the USSR, and some work has started in China. The fourth important thing I feel is the role that the institution is playing as a non-governmental organization in the United Nations. And over the past few years, the kind of projects that have been undertaken under the auspices of the United Nations, and the projects which have attracted virtually worldwide support.
Now I will call on Sister Mohini, who is the director of Brahma Kumaris in the United States, and their representative here at the UN, who will present a message to us at this time. Sister Mohini.
I would just like to tell you a little bit about Brahma Kumaris World Spiritual Organization. This organization functions since about 50 years, and since about 16, 17 years, it has established many centers, about 1,800 in 60 countries. And we are affiliated with United Nations since about 8 years now, just as non-governmental organization first. Then we started working, and we have consultative status with ECOSOC, and recently we are also with UNICEF. It's a very spiritual oriented, but offering services in different directions, and we found that it's bringing us together, not just the spiritual people, but people with different understanding coming together and working.
I chair the New York Regional Advisory Committee of the Global Cooperation for a Better World project, which is an international project. The aim of Global Cooperation for a Better World is really very simple. It is to demonstrate that it really is possible for each of us as individuals and as groups to participate in the reshaping and the transformation of the world in which we live. And our hope is to get people to think about this in three contexts or perspectives. That is, my vision for a better world in terms of how the world functions. What does this world look like? The second perspective has to do with relationships. In a better world, in the world that I envision, what would relationships be like? How would people, groups, nations interact? And thirdly, and equally as important, what about me? How do I see myself in terms of a better world and see myself as a better person in it? What changes do I need to have occur in me if I'm going to be an effective instrument for change in my community, in the society in which I live? April the 21st, today, all over the world, there are launchings similar to this. Not a lot of trumpet blaring, but just gatherings of people who make up our community in one way or another, to share this idea and to agree that it will begin right here with us. The international launching is taking place in the House of Lords in London. I have a relative in Mauritius with whom I was conversing this morning, and very pleased that when she hung up, she was on her way to the Global Cooperation launching. That's way, way away from here.
And so I found that whenever I could meditate, it really helped my headache. So I was looking for the perfect form of meditation. And that's why I ended up one Saturday at a meditation intensive at the Rajayoga Center to see if this new kind of meditation would work for me, and found, much to my shock, that it really did. But maybe the exciting thing about it was that while I was there, it just happened to coincide with the launch of something called the Million Minutes of Peace Appeal, and that was being done in conjunction with the United Nations. What happened was everybody was just asked to simply donate 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5 minutes a day during a specific month when they were just to think about peace, as all part of the United Nations International Year of Peace. I guess I had heard a lot about peace beginning inside, but that month convinced me, if I'd ever had any doubts, that that's exactly where peace starts. That somehow or another, really working for peace inside had really begun to have some effect on the outside. So maybe it's that feeling about peace that made me want to talk in front of the Berlin Wall, because it came down. At the conclusion of the Million Minutes of Peace, we added up all the minutes that had been donated from all around the world, and we found that there were, in excess of over 2,000 years of peace that had been donated by people during that 1 month period. It was an amazing contribution of effort, and it turned out to be about the largest program that was done any place in the world as part of the International Year of Peace. And the United Nations recognized the Brahma Kumaris by giving them various awards, both some national awards and international awards, for running what was the largest campaign during that year.
In 1971, the first center outside India started in London, and it was a small group of people who decided that it was really time to have a place where we could come together for meditation, and Madhuban was able to send us a teacher. And from that time on, there were many, many different people from all different parts of the world who were coming to study meditation, and they then went out to the different continents to share the ideas of Rajayoga. And so in a very natural way, London became the coordinating center for contact with various countries. Together with this, there was also the situation that we had several hundreds of people coming for meditation every morning, and we didn't really have a place to call home. And the wonderful thing that happened within the drama was that with the love, the cooperation, and the support of the family across the world, Baba created a beautiful home, which is Global Cooperation House. The house is busy from the morning through the day until the night. Early in the morning, of course, we have our meditation and class. We hear Baba's Murli. And at that point, we have several hundreds of people come each day. And then through the day, we have various other activities taking place. Sometimes it's women's group, sometimes it's people from the nearby clinic who come by, So there's various community services that take place. Then in the evenings we have things like the positive thinking course, stress management courses, meditation courses, teachers training takes place here also. These are some of the activities that we are having currently, as well as lecture series, of course. Modern technology certainly has been very well used here in this house, and it brings us close to all of you. The other place that comes to mind very specifically is the whole continent of Africa. And about the same time as we thought of having a place for Baba Global Cooperation House in London, it was around the same time that the idea came up in Nairobi, because their needs were also very great, and the number of students there run to several hundreds. And the wonderful thing was that just as Global Cooperation House in London was completed, so too the Global Museum in Nairobi was completed. And in fact their building is a very beautiful place with exquisite meditation hall and a beautiful museum.
Dr. Mehta will now tell us about the Global Hospital and Research Center that opened in Mount Abu in October 1991.
And I felt that there was an acute need of a good medical care in Mount Abu, especially when hundreds of people were visiting the center. Sometimes there were 3,000 to 4,000 people at one time, with a number of VIPs, a number of international guests. And what I noticed was there was a built-in all the ingredients of making a successful and a good hospital in this area. We want it as a service to this area, to people, to the center of Brahma Kumaris, and to people at large. One of the other interesting features that you might have noticed is that all those who work in the hospital, they are also the yogis, the rajayogis.
Right.
They meditate in the early morning, and they're at peace with the surroundings, the environments, and with themselves. Well, I'm a man of modern medicine and modern science. I'm trying to bring along modern Western medicine with Eastern spiritual practices and other unproven methods of alleviating the pain and suffering in close collaboration to work in a very scenic and a very spiritual atmosphere of Mount Abu. And I hope if we succeed, which I'm sure with Baba's grace we would, it would be a good example of how spirituality and science can work hand in hand and cut across the barriers of various nations and religions.
1993 is being celebrated as the year of interreligious understanding and cooperation. This is in commemoration of the World Parliament of Religions that took place in Chicago in 1893. And I believe it's a very crucial year. I agree that there are the fundamentalist forces that are at work, but I think it's precisely because of that that people who have a deep feeling for religion are coming forward now to express the other side of the spectrum, that it is possible to have love for each other in the love of God, in the recognition of the one parent and the world family as a world brotherhood, a world family. And just as you see many other things happening in the world in the sense of extreme negativity and in the force that is positive coming up to contradict it, I see that within religion the same thing is happening. Extreme fundamentalism on one side, but people of wisdom and truth and love coming up on the other side to express these ideas. Yes, the problems that face humanity are, the list is as long as my arm. Now, where do you start? One aspect perhaps is the environmental crisis, and within that I see that each one of us has a responsibility to simplify our needs, because if we continue to use the resources of the earth the way we are doing, then there isn't any future, and simplicity is only possible to be achieved through spirituality. And so a very direct connection of the external problem and the inner answer is through spirituality.
Why would one look at oneself? Why, when one is reasonably happy, reasonably successful, what is the point to look at oneself? It's only when one begins to doubt it, when that little voice has been calling at you for some time, that you start to look at yourself. Then you don't know how to look at yourself. The great thing that meditation does is give you the track in. It's like that Greek myth, who was it, who got lost in the caves or something, and he had a thread so he could get out, the Minotaur. Well, this is like the thread in. And once you can get the thread in to the way to look at yourself, then you can really start to look out into the world and have a totally broader perspective. And so through this meditation, one gets in touch with a very special area of oneself that one didn't know existed. Because you get in touch with your essential self. And once you're in touch with that, because you can't go beyond that, then your whole life starts to flower in a very, one can say it's a very gentle way, but that's not to be confused with weakness, because your life flowers in a way that has tremendous strength behind it. And it brings tremendous stability to your life. There's a little play which, among many other ways that we try to do and offer this knowledge to the world, some of us use our professional backgrounds to do so. And my professional background is as an actor in theatre, primarily. And so two of us put together a play based on this knowledge, because theatre is such a nice medium for the West. It's a nice medium for anybody, but for the West in particular. And to share this knowledge in a theatrical way, which is our responsibility to do, I think, to share this legacy Brahma Baba left us, this extraordinary legacy of knowledge, with the world. One can do it very nicely through a theatrical medium, because it's a great story. Theatre is at its essence, at its core, it is storytelling. And this is a story that really gives the essence of the human condition. It gives our story, it shares our story, the story of our eternity. And what better way to do it than through theatre?
The message. What does God want us to understand and do in our lives at this time of turbulence and stress of modern society? Here is Dadi Prakashmani.
कि हमारी ये सारे विश्व के बड़ों को एक विनती है कि जैसे राजनीति दुनिया के अंदर पढ़ाई ज़रूर बच्चों को दी जाती, जो भी आवश्यक है, लेकिन साथ साथ अगर ये राज्यों की आध्यात्मिकता की भी बच्चों में, युवा में अगर ये सिखाई दी जावे, तो ये जो आज बच्चे जो बड़े होते, जो अनेक चरित्रहीन हो जाते, और फिर उसके कारण कहीं आज मनुष्य का व्यसन सारा ये सब हो जाता, जिससे मनुष्य को अनेक बीमारियां पैदा होती, वह सब भी सुधर जावे। तो मॉरल सुधारने के लिए एजुकेशन की हमारे स्कूल, कॉलेजेस, इंस्टीट्यूशंस आदि अनेक कंपनीज जो भी सब रहते हैं, अगर ये दिया जावे तो हमारा देश, हमारा विश्व, हमारी सारी मनुष्य आत्माएँ बहुत बहुत दुनिया में अपना उन्नति कर सकते। हमारे दिल में सर्वधर्म वालों पर बहुत आदर है, हम उन्हों का बहुत सत्कार करती, और हम यही चाहते कि अगर सर्वधर्म वाले सिर्फ इतनी ही आपस में मिल कर के एक स्नेह का नाता रखे, और सभी के जो एक भाव है कि हम सब मनुष्यों को अपनी आत्मा की उन्नति करके और अपने को मुक्ति, जीवन मुक्ति लेनी है, तो उसके लिए हम आपस में भी दूसरे मतभेद मिटा के और एक ही लक्ष्य रखें कि कैसे हर एक मनुष्य को प्योरिटी एंड पीस एंड प्रॉस्पेरिटी मिले, और उसकी सेवा के लिए ही हम लोग सभी निमित्त है और उसके लिए ही हम आपस में भी एक दूसरे की सेवा में सहयोगी रहें तो हमारे को निश्चय है तो ज़रूर हम सभी सब धर्म वाले मिल करके एक धर्म, एकता, एक प्रेम, एक शांति, एक पवित्रता ज़रूर मनुष्य आत्माओं में लाएंगे। भगवान का कर्तव्य है पुरानी दुनिया को परिवर्तन कर नई दुनिया बनाना। तो पुरानी दुनिया में इस टाइम धर्म की गिलानी है, इसके कारण मनुष्य सभी अशांत, दुखी, पतित, बहुत डिस्टर्ब हो रहते हैं। तो परमात्मा आकर के उसके ये पतित दुनिया को पावन दुनिया बनाना, अशांति दुनिया को शांतिमय बनाना, जिसको कहा जाता है कलयुग से सतयुग लाना, गोल्डन एज लाना, जिसमें सदा ही प्योरिटी, पीस एंड हैप्पीनेस रहे। तो उसी कार्य के स्थापना के रोल में ही हम सभी बहुत मददगार रहते, क्योंकि साकारी दुनिया को साकारी मनुष्यों के द्वारा ही ये सृष्टि परिवर्तन होती। तो हमारा मुख्य स्लोगन है स्व परिवर्तन से विश्व परिवर्तन करना।
Om Shanti. I turn my mind within. And I reach that quiet inner place of peace, the core of my being, the essence of myself, that pure, peaceful, loving soul that I am. And I savor that experience, cultivating that quality of peace and self-awareness. As I become steady in soul consciousness, it becomes easy for me to shift to another dimension, and I find myself in a world of light that is pure and silent. It is as if I have come home. And in this beautiful, silent world of light, I find myself in the presence of that most extraordinary being, the Supreme Soul, the ocean of love is near me, and I find myself filled by that presence, and I cultivate a close relationship. This is, after all, the most precious friend there is. This is the ocean of wisdom. And from this one I receive all the beauty and all the qualities that make this human life worthwhile. I have finally come close to the One. And in that closeness, in quiet, I absorb. Hello and welcome to Introduction to Rajayoga. Today we are coming to you from the headquarters of the Brahma Kumaris World Spiritual University at Mount Abu in Rajasthan, northern India, on the top of the Aravalli Hills in the brilliant sunshine of the spring here. And I have with us today Dr. Ashok Mehta. Dr. Mehta is the past president of the Association of Surgeons of India. He's the surgeon and chief of head and neck C at the Tata Memorial Hospital in Bombay. He's the head of Department of Oncology at Nanavati Hospital, and he's the honorary cancer surgeon of Jaslok Hospital in Bombay. Dr. Ashok Mehta is also the Honorary Medical Director of the Global Hospital and Research Center here at Mount Abu. And we're very pleased to have you with us today, and thank you for taking the time to come on the program. Welcome.
Thank you for asking me to be with you.
Dr. Mehta, I'd like to first of all ask you how you originally came in contact with the Brahma Kumaris.
It was approximately 3 years back. One of the senior dadis or sisters of Brahma Kumaris, Dadi Gulzar, had cancer, and she was operated in Bombay by me. And I used to look after her without realizing who she was, except knowing that she was probably one of the sannyasinis of one of the orders in the country. But she was a very unusual patient in the sense that every morning I went and saw her after the operation, and I inquired how she was, and she would say that she's so good, she's very fine. And I would ask her, how did she sleep? And she said, very good. And I would ask her if she has pain, and she would say, I have no pain at all. You have done such wonderful operation. And I knew that it was not I used to do the same operation for everyone, but she was a wonderful patient. And that attracted me to know something about her and her order. And as luck would be, after she was discharged from the hospital after about 2 weeks, she invited to have dinner with her. And my wife and I joined her for the dinner. that's the time we were first introduced to Brahma Kumaris, and she invited me to go to Mount Abu and see the organization and meet and have some holidays. And I accepted because I was looking out for a nice holiday, and it was just incidental that we came to Mount Abu, spent about 5 days in this beautiful, serene atmosphere of Pandav Bhavans and the surroundings. During this phase of my stay, on the second day, we were taken out for a picnic by one of the senior brothers near Vairabhai. While we were going onto an area called Trevor Tank, which was in the hills, and we were walking up the hill, he felt discomfort, and obviously he was not well. We asked him to rest, and I realized that he had anginal pain. And when we returned after lunch, he was still uncomfortable. And by 4 p.m., we made the decision to send him to Bombay. And obviously, he had a mild heart attack, and we investigated him, and then subsequently he had to undergo a coronary bypass. Next day again, I was visiting the various areas in Pandav Bhavan, and they called me up to say that one of the Sevadharis, one of the persons who had come to volunteer services in Pandav Bhavan, had some problem and he was unwell, and we tried to shift him as early as possible to a nearby hospital, which was about 2 hours drive from Mount Abu. And I felt that there was an acute need of a good medical care in Mount Abu, especially when hundreds of people were visiting the center. Sometimes there were 3,000 to 4,000 people at one time, with a number of VIPs, a number of international guests. And what I noticed was there was a built-in all the ingredients of making a successful and a good hospital in this area. First and foremost, that geographically it had beautiful natural surroundings, the mountains, the hill, the lake, environmentally a very good climate in terms of cool weather around the year. And the third and most important gradient was there were a dedicated group of 400 Brahma Kumaris and Brahma Kumaris living right here, and we had a following of about, I was told, about 250,000 people.
Right.
And so it just clicked, my telling them, and they're accepting. And in terms of Brahma Kumaris, they call it a sankalp, a decision. And so the first thing we looked out for location, and there was a piece of land which was already available with them for building houses for the followers, and they all volunteered to let it go on to the hospital, and we purchased this 4.5 acres of land on which stands the global hospital today. So it was all within a span of almost 8 months that we got the piece of land. We registered a trust, charitable trust in Bombay. We raised the first donation, and that again was an interesting story. Nearby, who suffered a heart attack and had undergone a surgery, one of his old friends, whom he had not seen for almost more than 30 years, came to visit him to find out how he was. And he happened to be Mr. Vatumal, who has a foundation in Hawaii,
Right.
Vatumal Foundation in Hawaii, and they have a Vatumal Foundation in India too. And he was asking nearby that, what is he doing in Mount Abu? Just meditating and doing nothing? And nearby said, well, we're doing a lot of things, but one of the present projects which I'm very keen on undertaking is building a hospital and a healthcare facility. And Mr. Patumal said that he would be very willing to give a first donation for if such a project was feasible. And so Mr. Vatumal was invited to Mount Abu, And I was invited since I floated the idea, and then I brought along with my daughter who had just come out of the architectural school. I said, why don't you go with me? And in the meantime, we had done some homework and looked at the possibility of making a hospital which is spiritual, scientific, a rural-based, and taking a holistic approach. And we put those concepts on a few pages of paper, and we presented to Mr. Vatumal, and Mr. Vatumal was quite impressed with the whole concept. And by looking around at the organization and the people, he offered the first donation of 3 million Indian rupees, and which we could purchase the land.
Right.
And that's how everything just started off. We didn't have a penny in the kitty. It's first 30 lakhs from him, and the Brahma Kumaris organization itself paid 10 lakhs of rupees. Dadi volunteered to give 10 lakhs. So we were in business.
Wonderful. And then how have you played a role in guiding how the hospital should be moving through its phases of development?
Well, my concept was very clear. We want it as a service to this area, to its people, to the center of Brahma Kumaris, and to people at large. Especially, we have a large band of spiritual sannyasins across the country in various groups of religions, and it's a socio-cultural and religious atmosphere of the country. And most of them have left the families, the houses, and they live entirely at living everything to the nature and to the God. And we thought that this would be an ideal place, because Aravalli Hills is supposed to be a very holy place.
Yes, that's right. There are many.
Next to Himalayas. Because many yogis have meditated in these hills, especially when they were inaccessible in the past several hundred years. So we thought it was a good concept, and I found that this also fitted in well with the concepts of Brahma Kumaris. And with both the concepts falling in line, we hired a project writer, and we reduced our entire concept of this holistic approach and a spiritual hospital based on Western medicine, but not neglecting the Indian Ayurvedic medicine, homeopathic areas, naturopathy, and the various other treatments like music as a therapy, or acupressure, acupuncture, and other unproven methods of treatment. Not totally quack medicine, but medicine which is a lot of relevance to India, because it's cheap, it's easily available, and it can really help a lot of people to alleviate the pain and suffering. So with the first project, when we wrote down the project, we broke it up into phases, knowing that we were going to work in a hill far away from the large city. To get any high technology here would also have a lot of difficulty. We decided that we'll break it into 3 phases. The phase 1 would be diagnostic facilities, which would bring everything which is required for diagnosis of medical and surgical illnesses in adults, children, women, emergency medicine, intensive care, and so on. And we created those 11 diagnostic areas.
And this is now complete.
This is what probably you have seen.
Yes.
The global hospital, if you look at the structure, is something unique. It has a round structure. Now, we have opened up 2 helixes, so you have a single helix. It's a curvaceous thing. It's a single helical structure that we have built, signifying life and health. This also gives us access to plenty of light, ventilation, looking at the hills and looking at the garden in front and behind and on all sides. The third thing, we have the concept of creativity, and the creation is a zero, sunya we call it. That is, the whole creation came out of nothing. So that's why everything is round in that area, in this hospital construction. And if you look at the domes, they are to blend with the surroundings. We have temples at the world famous temples at Dilwara, the Jain temples, and they have the similar domes. So that's why you have a domed structure, you have a round structure, you have opened up helix, and this is blending spirituality with the science. One of the other interesting features that you might have noticed is that all those who work in the hospital, they are also the yogis, the rajayogis.
Right.
They meditate in the early morning, and they are at peace with the surroundings, the environments, and with themselves. And they are volunteers, literally, though we pay them as a normal doctor would be paid. But they just merge in the hospital's concept.
What do you think has been the special importance of having yogis as the medical staff?
Well,
of course, they're all trained.
It's so harmonious.
Yes.
They're so dedicated. Everything is just full of love and affection. Every patient who comes is looked not down upon as a patient, but as a special individual who needs alleviation of his suffering. Money, of course, is not involved because most of the patients are given at a nominal or no cost as of the present time, because we are still trying to find some ways by which we can support our charitable activity. But we have found a good response from the Brahma Kumaris and from every visitor to this center, and we have raised a fairly large donation of more than almost 25 million Indian rupees by now for building of the first phase. We have already spent 20 million. So in other words, when we started with nothing in the Kiri 2.5 years back, just an empty paper, we have something which we feel that this creative ideas have found a good response from the community at large.
To what extent do you think that the practice of meditation and the powerful thought that there should be this this practical reality, how do you see the connection between the meditation and the reality of the hospital?
Well, let's put it this way. We have everyone whom we treat, he goes full of wonder that they have never received such a treatment in any professional group hospital in this country. As a matter of fact, everyone wonders that why are they being treated as a VIPs? But they don't realize this is the way the Brahma Kumaris and Brahma Kumar work. They're full of love for any living being who comes across or who comes in contact with them. They give just pure love. It's just love vibrations, and besides, of course, the treatment are given. It is interesting to see how people respond. They also respond the same way. The body also probably reacts, heals better.
Yeah.
I can't tell you as of now, but when we start doing major surgery, probably will tell you whether what happens to complication rates. I'm sure that will much less.
Yes. Let's talk a little bit about your relationship as it has developed with the actual organization of the Brahma Kumaris, because I think that you have taken the course and you study and you practice meditation yourself now.
Well, I came as an outsider and I have become an insider. I love to meditate. Once I come to Mount Abu, I get up at 3:30 without alarm clock. It's just a biological clock within me. I just get up, and at 4 o'clock I'm sitting cross-legged on the floor for 45 minutes. And it's all the methods of meditation are traditional Indian. We meditate on the soul, and here we meditate in method of rajayoga, where we relate ourselves to Baba, the Supreme Soul.
Supreme.
And there's nothing like a religion here. Mm-hmm. It could be a young, old, it could be a Hindu, Muslim, Christian, or any religion. I'm a Jain, for example. And therefore I think it's cutting across all the barriers of various nations, communities, religions, but it is all within yourself. You meditate on your Atma, the soul, and you relate itself to the powerful. When I talk to all the dadis including Dadi Prakashmani, I think there are about 11 other dadis. Each one is like a vibrant, living example of a master. And most of them are not highly educated. They cannot even speak good English, but they are out of the world in many ways. Their life is the philosophy. They are living examples of what can happen and what you can achieve by being, bringing about a change in yourself, how you can influence the rest of the world.
We're coming very close to the end of the program, and I wonder if just before we finish, there might be anything that you might wish to say, especially as your personal message to our listeners and viewers today.
Well, I'm a man of modern medicine and modern science. I'm trying to bring along modern Western medicine with Eastern spiritual practices and other unproven methods of alleviating the pain and suffering in close collaboration to work in a very scenic and a very spiritual atmosphere of Mount Abu. And I hope if we succeed, it would be a good example of how spirituality and science can work hand in hand and cut across the barriers of various nations and religions.
Thank you very much indeed. I appreciate that you were with us here today, and I'd like to thank everyone who has been with us for your participation in the program today. If there is anyone who would like to know more about the Brahma Kumaris or to take any benefit of the classes and lectures and meditation programs that are offered at all of the centers, then please contact the brothers and sisters at your local center. The telephone number will be on your television screen at the end of the program. And at this time, I'd like to thank you all once again for being with us, and we will close with a meditation. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
I come to you, the great healer. I come to you as I am. And you surround me with your special healing love. You draw me to yourself, and I find myself cradled in those hands. I feel that special vibration reaching to the deepest part of my soul. Down to those places where the scars of the past thorns are still pulling on my heart. And you touch me even in those secret parts. I release my wounds to you. And I am filled with that light that restores me. And I find you surrounding me, filling me with the nurturing and healing essence that I need. those parts of myself that were unable to be trained due to deeper inner damage. First, they are set right by your special understanding. And I keep myself continuously within that flow of strength. You keep directing towards me, and those old sores are healing. I can easily be touched in those once untouchable places, and I become better. Many parts of a broken character seeking to become whole, become willing to be trained. And I see my part in my own disintegration, which you show me clearly, but without judgment, with clear understanding, and you encourage me. I become once again what I had been, and all the rupturing is finished. Tears are over. I am healed. Om Shanti.
सुख कर ये मन